So this is an old battery that was water damaged. It's a old battery. I can't remember where I got it from. I got it from somebody on like Facebook Marketplace or something for a couple dollars. It was water damaged and didn't work at all. So I gutted it, so it's just an empty shell now, and just have the contacts in there still. And I wired a connector on here that just goes straight up to the contacts. And then I can use, I've got this splitter that I put together. This is not a very pretty one, but I'll make a nicer one now that I know this all works. So that I can actually power a tool from a power supply by plugging it into here. I'm actually using a laptop power supply that plugs right into this, which those are usually 19.5 volts if you didn't know. So, which is well within the range of a Ryobi battery, because they say they're 18 volts, but they're actually vary between 15 volts is when they're totally empty and 21 volts is fully charged. So they call it 18 because that's kind of the midpoint, but so anything in that range, 15 to 21, is totally safe. So with this, you can plug in a laptop charger and charge it. But what I can also do for some of the tools that have even higher needs than that is I can plug in another battery onto this. So I started off with this example. So this is not anything that I did anything to. This is a file I just downloaded off of, I can't remember if it was Thingiverse or Tinkercad, but on one of those 3D printed sharing sites. And somebody else had printed this with a panel mount USB charger on it. And I had an extra, cigarette lighter style socket from an old project. And so I just wired that in, and you can plug in any USB cigarette lighter charger, well, almost any. If you didn't know, most of these will go up to a 24 volt input. So just make sure it can handle the higher voltage, because that's not, if you don't have a regulator on here, this is not just a regular 12 volt outlet. So as long as it can handle up to at least the 21 volts of a full charge, which most of these little cigarette lighter things can do, because like large campers and RVs will sometimes run 24 volt systems. So many of these things can actually go either 12 or 24 volt, which is fine. So that gives you, I've got a couple USB-A ports and two 20 watt Type-C ports that you can pull out there, which is extremely handy. And there's no complicated circuitry here. It just goes from the battery contacts straight onto the terminals for that cigarette lighter, and that's it. There's not, and it clips on to the original clamps that the tool uses. So I used this as a basis. That I just downloaded this is not edited, and I just did some real basic mods to get rid of the hole on top and add some extra stuff inside here, which I'll show you in a second. So then I've got the output of the battery on a cable, so I can plug that into this to run other tools, or with this I can plug it in at the same time as a power supply, and I can actually run a tool off a power supply and recharge this at the same time. So if you've got a tool, for example, I'm using the 1 gallon air compressor, Ryobi air compressor. It needs a whole lot of juice when it first starts up. That motor sucks a lot of amps at first. So a laptop power supply that I've got is a 330 watt, and it's not quite strong enough to do it by itself. It overloads it. So by putting a battery plugged into this in parallel with the laptop power supply, the battery takes care of running the air compressor when it first kicks on. Then the charger, the laptop charger, handles the load otherwise, and in between, every time the compressor cycles off in between fill-ups, then the charger, the laptop charger, will charge up the battery. It will top it off before it runs again. So this will give you just the battery output on here, and I can flick this and put it in charging mode, and the full battery output is actually still available while charging mode is activated. So you can charge and discharge at the same time, or like without having to flick the switch every time. Like it'll do both. So I can just turn that off though, so that I don't leave like these little lights on or anything and run the battery low when it's not being used. So, and with that off, you can still just use it as output only. You don't have to be charging it through this or anything. So this I'm going to use as a basis for future projects that I'm going to come up with that will use a Ryobi battery system. So here is my latest edit to this that I haven't put together into a project yet. So I took the base of it. Remember, this is the original file that I downloaded that does this. So I extended the base so it'll cover the full battery to give you the biggest possible. Just compare those side by side, give you the most space to work with. And then reduced this top sort of conning tower thing into a piece that's just big enough to cover these and give you your connections. So there'll be little contacts on here, like you see this, to give you context to the terminals on the battery. And then you've got all this real estate, and then this is just a hollow lid. And so when you're done, these all print as these separate parts like this. So this is a base plate and a tower as two parts, and then a little super glue when you're ready to adhere them together, and that's what holds it. So I've got this larger base plate, which is just a pretty simple modification of this guy's file, and sliced off the chamber of this tower, and then I've got this big empty box. So I can edit this, I can make this box, you know, as close to this tower as I want. If I don't need much space, I can make this box much taller if I need to fit a bunch of other stuff in there for whatever I want to make it do. I can use it without the cover if I just want to have like a wire tap on, kind of like this, and not have any other electronics in there. I just need to have it give me a secure connection. I can use just this and the tower basically like this. I can add like a screw hole here and a washer, and I can use that to mount the battery up to something like under a cabinet. So I'm really grateful. I'll put a link to I forget the name of the person that I downloaded this from. It was on a free sharing site. It's not stolen. But this white version that you see is not my original work, and this is just me modifying this other guy's original work, because these clips that whoever it is, I wish I had his name, these clips that he designed to interact with these original spring connection tabs on the battery, they just work super great. You can see it clips on, and it's a super, there's no jiggle, there's no wiggle, and it prints super easy as this one all-in-one base plate. And I believe actually that his project that I downloaded, he said in like the notes on it that it was his revision to somebody else's original work. So this goes, you know, there's other creators before the guy I got this from. So I'm not sure who exactly to credit for which parts of this, but I'm very pleased with this. It works great. It prints really easily, really well. It's not difficult to put together, and you got so much room for activities.